Welcome very much, everybody, to the last session of this term of the Digital Humanities Hangout. This was initiated by the University of Lancaster, by Patty, and is co-organised by my own organisation, the Ghent Centre for Digital Humanities in Belgium, and also the DH Lab with Daniel Alvarez in the new University of Lisbon. So we're very delighted today to welcome Gustavo Candela and María Dolores Sáez from the Digital Library of Miguel Cervantes, virtual at the University of Alicante in Spain. If I just briefly introduce you, so I got to know Gustavo from the GLAM Labs network. Some of you may know that in September 2018, the British Library Labs team organised an event about building library labs, and that's where I got to know Gustavo, and since then we've been collaborating on many things. So Dr. Gustavo Candela, he's a software developer in the team at the Digital Library, and he's also a researcher and part-time computer science professor at the University of Alicante. His background is really looking at digital libraries, and particularly linked open data in digital libraries. Gustavo's colleague, María Dolores Sáez, she's also a software developer and researcher at the Digital Library, as well as a background and part-time computer science professor at the University of Alicante. And she's working as part of her PhD on conversational agents in digital libraries. So today, Gustavo will be giving the presentation on GLAM Jupyter Notebooks for Digital Humanities, an introduction. So over to you, Gustavo. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for this introduction. And first of all, I would like to thank the University of Lancaster for giving us this opportunity to show you our research. And also, we would like to thank you, Sally, for giving us your support while doing this presentation, but also when we were creating the notebooks, that I know that you were behind the scenes. Okay. Well, let us start. Today we're going to talk about our Jupyter Notebooks collection. And well, you already know me. I'm Gustavo Candela, and María Dolores is doing this presentation with me. I'll be talking, but please feel free to ask or add anything. We also have with us Oscar, with his from the social media department, with us at the Digital Library. And well, today I'll try to cover all these topics. I'll make an introduction to GLAM Labs and Jupyter Notebooks. We'll talk about collecting as data, Jupyter Notebooks and Digital Humanities. And then we'll go to our collection of Jupyter Notebooks. I'll try to show you an example if we have enough time. And finally, we'll see some conclusions. First of all, I would like to say that my background is computer science, and I would like to approach the digital humanities part the better I can, okay? So I hope we're going to enjoy this presentation. Well, this research is based on our lab, and a lab in a GLAM institution is a space to explore new uses of digital collections in innovative and creative ways. Labs are led by the British Library, and we had the first meeting 2 or 3 years ago in London. María Dolores was with me there. And we then had another meeting in Copenhagen. And finally, a few of us had the opportunity to be in Doha to write a book, to write the Open GLAM Lab. It's an open book that you can reuse, read, and do whatever you think is useful. You have the link there, and it's been translated to different languages. We've been in charge of the Spanish one. Still, we need some time to publish the book because of the COVID, but it will be ready soon. And I have the book here. I don't know if you can see it. And well, this is just something really interesting in case you want to know more about the labs. Well, we have a community which is called International GLAM Labs Community, and this is the website. And you can have here at a glance the institutions that we have in this community, mainly from Europe, but we have also from USA, like the Library of Congress, and we have also many institutions in Australia. I invite you to join the community. It's free. You only have to sign with your email. And every year we have an event and we have monthly calls where we can share ideas, projects, and everything. I did this job because of the GLAM Labs community. So you may have an opportunity there to get an idea or a project or whatever. This job is also based on the Tim Sherratt work and his GLAM workbench. It's been really an inspiration for me, and you can see here his live webinar about his GLAM workbench that he did in this event in April. And today I'll try to answer a few questions. I'll try to do it at least. Why are Jupyter notebooks so relevant for digital humanities? What are the goals of Jupyter notebooks? Do I need to code? And possibilities of research regarding GLAM's institutions. And can we maintain the relevancy of GLAM institutions? Well, I've been working for 10 years now in the digital library, and I've been publishing data sets, link open data, working with other institutions, but still I miss people not working in a GLAM institution approaching to do their research. I would like to find more people from other disciplines and other institutions approaching GLAM institutions to do their research. And I think that Jupyter notebooks play a role in this sense. Let's see. Well, we can see here a traditional website. I use the one for my digital library, so I was not in trouble, but this is similar in any other GLAM institution. What you're gonna get is just a traditional website where you can search and retrieve a list of results. But is this ready for computationally driven research? I would say and yes and no. I could, as a computer science, create a tool to do web scraping, to get all the metadata, to get the text, to get whatever. I know I have the skills to do it, but is this easy to do it? I don't think so. And is the full text available? What do you mean by this? A PDF is having the full text available. What do you need as a researcher? As a researcher, I just need the text. So please provide me a file with the text inside. Not giving, I don't need a PDF. And is there a clear license? Well, you may find a general license in the catalog, but you don't have a license for a data set or for an item. So researchers sometimes don't feel like they can use these items in a digital library. Well, GLAM institutions have been providing digital collections for traditionally by means of different methods like APIs, dump, images, text, metadata. We've been working lately with link open data and enrichment and everything. But recently, a new idea emerged and has become very popular, which is called collecting as data, which is based on the publication of data sets ready for computationally driven research, including also examples of use, a license, in a whole package altogether. Okay. How a researcher approach a GLAM institution. This is a methodology from the Library of Congress. You can see here the link. The first thing that they do is identify the data. They use a website. Then they can use the API to divide this data and to extract what they need. Finally, they download the data. This is for me collecting as data. At this point, we have collecting as data. And then they do their analysis and reporting and everything. This is the approach that we have published in an article to create collecting as data. This is just a methodology, a set of steps to create collecting as data. First of all, we have identification. Identification can be by means of websites or labs. Then we have access and retrieve by means of APIs and dumps. A dump is a file with the whole content inside. Normally they are big files. Then we have cleaning and reformat. Imagine that you have a data set with 10 metadata fields and you only want to use 3. You will remove and you will get only the data that you want to use. You will remove these other metadata fields that you don't want to use. That we can call this cleaning and reformat and many other things. Okay, I don't go into details. And we can also do data enrichment, which means, for instance, if we have an item at a library with a publication place London, just the text, what about if we want to show this item in a map? How can we show this item in a map? I mean, in London. Well, you can create your own repository of location, or you can use already existing geographic repositories, like for instance, GeoNames or Wikidata. And then you will have the coordinates to show this item in a map. We will show an example of this later. Finally, when we have our dataset ready, we do the package. And there are different tools to do this. And then when we have our data set, then we can do the analysis by means of exploitation or creating tools to do whatever with the data set. Well, the purpose of Jupyter Notebooks is to provide a simple interface to do data science. They have emerged as a powerful tool for transparent, collaborative, and reproducible research. I've been publishing the articles in journals where I achieved some results which were just almost impossible to reproduce because it was really complicated. But by means of notebooks, we are allowed to reproduce the whole process step by step, which is really popular at the moment in the research community. And also, very important for digital humanities, I would say that Jupyter Notebooks allow us to introduce and combine human readable narrative with code. So for me, I could say that the most important part might be the code, but it's also important to have documentation. But for you, maybe as a digital humanities researchers, the narrative part is really important. And a notebook is nothing else than cells, and in each of the cells can contain code or text. This is the interface, which is just like a word. We can see here cells, which can be text or code, and you just need to press run to run each of the cells. And you will see the result of after running each of the cell. Okay, we will see this later. Well, Jupyter Notebooks have become very popular in the research community. You can see here many examples from the Library of Congress, British Library, and many other examples. And they are reproducible, as I said before. They are runnable in the cloud, which means that you don't need anything installed in your computer. It's easy to use. You just need to press run. No need to code. And it can combine code with documentation, which is really important, as I said before, for the digital humanities researchers. And It's also a pedagogical tool. I'm considering about including notebooks next year in my degree and master lessons. For instance, to introduce a programming language or even use this collection about reusing datasets from GLAM institutions. Well, this is just the general structure that I came up with our digital collection. First of all, we have an introduction. Then we have setting up things, which means naming the Python packages that we're going to use. For instance, if we're going to create charts, we may use one Python package that needs to be named there. Okay. Then we will retrieve the datasets by means of JSON or a compressed file or by means of an API. And then we'll do the preprocessing and finally we'll do the analysis by means of visualizations or any other method. Those are the tools that the tools that I use to create our collection of Jupyter notebooks from scratch. So in case you want to start a new collection, I hope that this list can be useful for you. Well, why are important Jupyter notebooks for digital humanities? Notebooks help us or you to work with data from GLAMs. In a very simple way, you can get the data from a GLAM institution and do some research with just a few lines of code. Okay, and there are many examples outside that you can reuse for free, and you only have to copy the code and adapt it to your dataset. And as I said before, it allows us to include a narrative part, but also code. And it also allows us to apply a wide range of research methods like text mining, topic modeling, natural language processing, anything. But there's also one thing that I would like to say as a computer science. I've been working with datasets and link open data for a long time. I know a lot about metadata formats and interoperability and all these technical things. But when I have to approach a dataset, I don't really have the knowledge about what is the content in this dataset. And I think that you, as a digital humanities researcher, you have the knowledge at the very first time. You know what to do with this dataset, which is really difficult for me as a computer science. So I really think that you, digital humanities researchers, have a really relevant role to play in GLAM institutions and in our datasets. So please come to us and use our datasets. What can we do with our data? Well, we can automatically enrich our datasets by means of external repositories. We can create new visualizations based on the data like maps or charts or whatever. We can create composite images, as we will see later, and we can create network graphs to identify patterns. This is very useful for link open data since link open data datasets is it's a graph, so it's quite easy to adapt it to link open data. What can we do? We can apply computer vision methods to identify things in images. I'm not an expert on this, but I could achieve this result with a few lines of code. We can do natural language processing. We can also create language models. I'll tell you later a little bit more about language models. And we can, I've been working also identifying topics and emerging trends in text using, for instance, journals, which has different issues across the time. And well, now we have here our collection of Jupyter notebooks that we published in April. And we use many institutions, and each of them provides their data using different methods like link open data, Sparkle endpoints, APIs. Some you need to register, some not. Some provide text, some provide images, some provide both, some provides only metadata. It's like a overview of all kind of data sets and institutions that we can reuse and for free. And I would like to mention that lately the Austrian National Library provide us 2 additional notebooks that you can see in our collection. Well, those are just some examples. The first one, the composite image, I use thanks to Tim Serrat and his code. I use his code to create these composite images. We're using our link open data and the covers of the books that were already there and not exploited in any tool and anything. So I just create this thing. We also use the BNF link open data to create a network graphs. We can see here, for instance, all the contributors to a work clustered by their activity. And we see in the middle literature, how they are related. Well, this is another way of approaching a dataset. You can do the traditional thing, or you can have new visualizations. And we'll have here the specialization and also the topic mode, which is identifying the most common words in a dataset. And now we're going to see an example using the British Library Link Data Platform and how we use this dataset combined with Wikidata to show an interactive map. So you can go here to see this Jupyter notebook, and I'll try to run it locally. Okay. Can I stop sharing a moment?
The joy of live demos.
Now I can change the window. Now you can see it?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about this. Then I have to do it again. Well, this is a notebook running locally, and this is just Jupyter running. As you can see, this is just like a Google Drive where you can see all the notebooks and a few files. And we're gonna see the British Library one, okay, which is this one. As I said before, we have an introduction, and we have at the top a menu where we can run, okay, each cell. And now we have here a cell to identify which author we want to analyze. Okay, you're gonna get all the information related with Shakespeare, and we're gonna create a map with this. Okay, let's see. Well, then we have the setting up things. I'm gonna name all the Python packages that I'm gonna use. Okay, I'm gonna create a CSV file, so I'm gonna use this library. I'm gonna use JSON. I'm gonna use volume to show the map. I'm gonna do some charts. So I have to name it, all of them. Then this is the part of the code that access the dataset automatically and add here the author Shakespeare, okay? And okay, I'm gonna be executing everything. There you go. There you go. Now we're gonna execute the query and we see the result here. Okay. Now we're gonna save it as a file. And now we're gonna explore this information. Look, we have resources, places, titles, and dates of items related with Shakespeare. Okay, we're getting resources related with Shakespeare. We're gonna change this 0 with this link here. Okay, let's continue. Now we are here. Okay, we're reading. You see that I can go up and down and I have to execute each cell and see the result. So how many items do we have? We have these ones. Let's get the number of resources per place. And we have, let's see this one, for instance, 85 results. England, in your names. But this is the only information that we have in the link open data dataset. This link, you don't have the coordinates. How can we create a map from this? Well, let's see. Well, I do a few things more here just to show you how to create charts, but I don't gonna go into details of this. I just want to show you the map. And now we have here exploring the places. We're gonna get all the places and we're gonna get the identifiers. Let's see. Look, I can't comment here and I can execute again, run again, and I get all the places, but we're gonna be using this string. Okay, those are the geonames identifiers from the resources related with Shakespeare. And now we're gonna go to Wikidata using these identifiers to get latitude and longitude. Now we have latitude and longitude. And finally, we're gonna create the map using this information, using volume. And we see the result here. And if we press, we see that we have 85 records published in English, in England. Okay. Now I think, okay. Can you see my screen?
Perfect. Yes, perfect.
Well, about the conclusions, several institutions are using the collection for education. And if I'm not wrong, the University of Maryland contact us. 2 additional notebooks have been provided by the Austrian National Library. We are exploring potential collaboration with other institutions. We wrote an article about reducing digital collections, and it's still under revision, but it will be published soon. And we have also accepted a programming story and tutorial, which is not done at the moment, but we will have something before the end of the year. And I've been also working on additional notebooks based on Spanish text corpora. And you can see here an example based on the data set from Raquel Liceras. They publish a dataset based on some books from Spain, and I use this dataset to create a language model to automatically generate text. It's not working perfectly because of the amount of text. It's not enough, but it's just an example of how to reuse this dataset. And well, I would like to include additional dataset and notebooks. And I've been also working on the identification of emerging trends. And I did 2 tests based on the newspapers from the Library of Congress and a journal of our digital library. And I've been working also on the creation of language models for OCR quality. OCR is the output of the digitization process. And if you have a language model with the most common words and its relations, you can have, as a result, when you measure the OCR output with this language model, some quality, some an assessment of the quality. Okay. And well, finally, we are just open to collaborate with an institution. And I think this is all. And now, if you have any question or doubt, I'll be glad to answer you. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much to both Gustavo and Maria Dolores, who I know worked a lot on the presentation as well. So thank you very much. Well, there's many questions already in the chat, so I'll just scroll back up to the top. People have been posting questions and comments all the way through. So let me just scroll back up to the top for you. Oh, it's a long way. Right, let's find out. Right. Oops, I've scrolled past the beginning of the start of this chat. That's why. Just finding the beginning. Right, here we go. So finding the beginning, just scrolling down. Great. Meeting started. Oops, sorry. So, right, getting to the top. Right, first question I think was actually from me, but and I think you might have answered it during the course of the presentation. You showed the GLAM Labs digital library, the GLAM Labs map, and you said it seems to be made with Wikidata. Could you tell us a bit about this? And I think in some ways you've answered that question during the presentation.
So you want me to explain how the map of the GLAM Labs is done?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, the map of the GLAM Labs, it's based on Wikidata. We don't have any information in the website. All the information is stored in Wikidata. I've been working actively in Wikidata since many years. I'm also part of Wikimedia Spain. And basically, we created a new property, which is called member of. We actually created an instance of the GLAM Labs community. So we are able to join each institution by means of property member of and using this entity. So when anybody wants to join the community, they can send us the Wikidata link, and we just in a minute add this property, and then this institution is shown in the map.
Great,
so
thanks.
We don't need anything. It's really wonderful and useful because you don't need anything. It's everything run in Wikidata.
Oh, thanks for explaining that. That's really useful. I can only see the names. So is it Will Seaver? I don't know. This is whose question this is. Sorry, but how does viewing a GLAM collection as data change the context of this collection to those who view it, use it as a collection rather than a data set? Does that question make sense for you?
Well, I'll try to answer it. Uh, when we were publishing digital collections, I think we were not thinking about research in the way that we can do it today. We were just publishing the images and text, and without a proper license, and collecting as data. What is providing us is a set of rules in order to provide a clear data set to be reused. So following these rules, you're going to have a data set that can be reused by using metadata, text, or whatever.
Does that answer your question? Will Seaver? Sorry, I can only say the name. Okay, let's assume it does. Brilliant. The next question is, could you say more about the package data set? So in your schema, you said at the end you make the package, but how is that packaged?
Well, I'll try to explain it, okay? When I did this methodology, it was in April, I didn't found anything similar. And lately, I saw a new Jupyter notebook collection from the Library of Congress, and they are using another tool for the packaging. But at the end, it's the same. I mean, packaging is a way and a standard way of including all the content, all the license, images, everything together using any tool. I only know two. The one that I use and the one from the Library of Congress. I don't remember the name or the link, but if you want to know more about this, I can share with you the link. Okay.
So it's a bit like a zip file with everything in.
Yeah, it's just a file with everything inside, and the license. You can include examples, links, everything inside. You download this data set, and you have everything there. The text, everything.
Cool, perfect. Question from Patty, thank you. Are you running summer fall schools or training sessions this year? I think this question came up when you said that maybe next year you would be teaching programming and things via notebooks.
We may have online sessions, and I can share with you if you are interested because of the COVID. I don't know how it's going to be the lessons. It might be dual, I mean, at the university, but also from home, online. And there's no problem if you want to join us or anybody want to join us or having another talk or whatever. Just let us know. We are open to anything.
Great, thanks. Next question, is it possible to run Python notebooks in the cloud that use libraries that are not included in Anaconda distributions?
I have used Jupyter Notebook without using Anaconda. I don't know the details, but in order to run our collection of Jupyter Notebooks, I have to configure each collection. I mean, we have different projects in GitHub depending on the type of the data set that I'm using. For instance, we have one project for link open data, and I had to create a file to configure Binder in order to be run in the cloud. You can take a look at the GitHub project and see this file, and it's easy to do it. It's called requirements file, and you add everything there.
Great. He says, okay, or she, I don't know. Okay, that makes sense. Question, how many can we use notebooks with other types of data sets like humanities research data sets instead of GLAM data sets? And I think you kind of answered that at the end as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is just an example. I'm working, I'm promoting GLAM labs, and I work at a GLAM institution, so that's why I created these notebooks. But this is open. I mean, Jupyter Notebook allows you to do anything, so you can do these things applied to your domain or whatever. but it's similar. You can get the notebook and get some cells and learn a little bit and copy the code and whatever. It's free, so please reuse it or do whatever you think is useful.
Great. And then Jeff responded to Ben's question. From what I understand, Binder can do that. So this was the Anaconda question, since it essentially gathers dependencies into a Docker. So he's, answered that question as well.
This is what the requirements file does. Add the configuration for the Docker in Binder.
Cool. Question. This is a question to the participants in this room. So this is a question from me. So from everybody who's in this room, how do you think you could use notebooks in your research? So you've all been listening to this, so I just wondered if any of the participants thought, this would be really cool to answer a part of my research question. So I'm just wondering if anybody wants to share their ideas about how they thought they could perhaps use this in their research, in your research. Does anybody want to volunteer for that?
I have an idea, more for teaching than for research. Well, I do have loads of, ideas for research as well, but just that for teaching that comes to my mind, for instance, is maybe creating a Jupyter notebook to show students how name entity recognition works, for instance. That would be a really kind of like transparent way to show what the thing is doing behind. I think that would be really good.
Excellent, thanks. And I see, I'm not sure who it is, Will, and they say definitely would be really useful in communicating my research to others and making it reproducible. Excellent, thanks very much for that. And then comment from Patty, this is so exciting, I'll be using it in my MA. So exactly what you've just said.
Thank you.
The question, this was when you were running the notebook and you mentioned Folium to do the map. Could you just say a little bit more about what Folium is?
It's I don't know the details, but there are plenty of platforms and tools to create maps, and I just see an example of how to create a map, and I just use and adapted the code. But Folium is just a Python package to create maps. So you can see the code there and reuse it and adapt it and do whatever it's. Okay.
Great, thanks. Question from Patty. Gustavo, could you say more about where the geographic information from the Shakespeare example is coming from? I imagine it's the metadata. Also, how is the geoparsing taking place? This is to say, how does it resolve problems like two places with the same name, etc.?
Okay. This example was easy. I'll tell you why. The link open data from the British Library contain in some items links to geonames, but also the link. You don't have the coordinates. How could I get the coordinates using this identifier of geonames? If I want to show this information in the map, well, you can go to geonames and get the information and store it in your repository. But geonames does not have a Sparkle endpoint to use it. Okay, but we have Wikidata. Wikidata have its multi-domain repository, and you have geographic information, libraries, many information of any kind. And you have also the entity England there, and it has a link to geonames. And this item in Wikidata also has the coordinates. So if I have the geonames identifier, I can go to Wikidata, link to Wikidata, get the coordinates, and show the map. That's the idea. it's not so complicated as you were thinking. I've been working also on trying to make connections from a big data set, and the way we did it was by using entity recognition, an entity recognition tool from Stanford, and I had to create a model for this project. It's also a paper that we have, and I can tell you a little bit more about this. And I handle a little bit the disambiguation when you have two places that it's the same name and different countries. How can we do the disambiguation? Well, we created like a algorithm to do that, and I can share with you if you want the paper, and this is part of my thesis.
Yes, please.
Okay, no worries.
Cool, great. Stella says, will you share the slides afterwards?
Will you,
please?
Sally?
Maybe we can put it in the chat at the end, yeah?
Okay, there's no problem. You also have it. Do it.
Yes, I will do. Great, thanks. Just scrolling down. Javier says, this is a very amazing tool, but I'm wondering why retrieving the metadata directly from the original organization data model instead of Wikidata.
Well, can you repeat, please?
It's Javier, so I don't know if Javier is still here, but why are you going via, I think he's saying, why are you going via Wikidata instead of retrieving the information straight from the organization's data model?
I think I already answered.
He's put it at the end to extend my question. So I can just scroll down. Most of the organizations using CDOC already, so CDOC CRM, I think, have place appellation in the data model that identifies that unique place in time and space, which Wikidata doesn't.
I can answer the question. The British Library doesn't use, in their link open data model, does not use any complex metadata model. They use Vivo, which is a simple metadata model, and they don't have they only have this information, as I said before, the link to your names. There's no more information. There's no coordinates. If they would have this information, obviously I would have used it, but they only had this link, and I thought it would be a good idea to show how to enrich this metadata model with an external one like Wikidata. But I know that there are other vocabularies that allow you to define many things like places, authors, and we have, for instance, Ferber. Okay.
Great. Just scrolling down. I can see how Jupyter notebooks can be really useful for the replicability of research. How do you envisage making them understandable for researchers with zero knowledge of coding? Even with all the narrative comments, this can still seem quite daunting. Great question there.
Can you answer this, Sally? Well, we had nothing before. Now we had notebooks. I know it's not easy, but before it was even more complicated because you only had code. Now we have Jupyter Notebook. You can run it in the cloud without installing anything, and it's another way of seeing research. And I know it's difficult, but we are getting there. I don't know, maybe one day we have a notebook that teach you how to program from scratch, but I think we still have to wait a little bit, but we are on the right path, I guess. But I agree with you, it's somehow really complicated, and it's easy for me to come here and say, well, you're going to learn and you're going to get this and you're going to use your data. I know it's complicated, but I have to encourage you. So
Yes, thank you. Thanks for that. And maybe Ben, so I see now you are that person. Ben, maybe can I turn it back to you then? What do you think would make it less daunting? So if new notebooks are sort of a nice way in, but you still say that it could be daunting, do you have an idea of what could make it less daunting?
What do you mean by daunting?
Less scary. So I'm turning now back to Ben, if he would be willing to say what maybe if he has any ideas about what could make it less scary.
I mean, I have used a few of these notebooks, and where it's worked best is if it's been, say, part of someone's kind of research blog, and they've linked out to the notebook, but they also have the comments in the notebook, but then a proper narrative run through in their blog, which explains it without using any code. And you have all the code and the rest of the stuff in the notebook, which is linked to it. That works okay, because then you can get your head around both sides of it. I think sometimes when you have, especially if you're running quite a long script, and you've got a notebook which is, say, got 20 different sections, and you're trying to explain each section in turn, I won't get through it all. I just haven't got time. So I think kind of having shorter ones in little bites with a kind of linked explanation has been the most useful way of doing it so far. But yeah, it's not easy. I haven't got the answer either.
But I think that's a great answer, to say it's even going up to a higher level, sort of putting the context around the whole thing, and then you'd prefer 5 short notebooks than 1 long one, if I understand.
Yeah, just to get my head around each bit at a time, because I know in some ways that isn't how the script will eventually run. But if I'm trying to understand what it's doing, that's far more useful.
I think that's great advice. Right, I think unless I've missed anybody, that was all of the questions that are in the chat. Are there any other questions for Gustavo and Maria Dolores? No? If there's no further questions, let's say thank you very much again to Gustavo. This is one of the worst things about virtual meetings. You don't get any applause, but very, very well done. I've put the slides in the chat. I don't know if you saw them go past. I will put them here at the bottom again. And there are the slides. This will be, it's been recorded, and I don't know if one of the Lancaster team has the YouTube channel of Lancaster available really quickly, that you could put that. So once the recordings are ready, they will be on the Lancaster YouTube channel. And this is just to say that we've been running these sessions every Friday since the beginning of COVID. And this is the last session for this term, so it's like, whoa, a little bit sad, but it was a great end on such an exciting session. What Patty would like me to say is announce what's happening in the new term, in the new semester in September. So as you know, many of the people at Lancaster, and also in collaboration with Lisbon and Ghent, are very into spatial humanities. And the Spatial Humanities Conference won't be, unfortunately, happening in Lisbon in September, but we're going to do some online sessions. So all of the sessions, thank you very much, Catherine, for putting the YouTube channel in the chat. All of the sessions in September will have a spatial humanities theme. So we'll be having a whole spatial humanities Friday sessions in September. So is there anything else you would like to add, Patty? No, so if we will, thank you for that. We will feed back the information in August time, so you've got that already. So thank you very much for everybody for joining. Thank you again to Gustavo and Maria Dolores, and wishing you a great weekend. And if you're having some summer holidays, great. have some rest and be refreshed coming back in September for the next phase. So thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. It was a real pleasure for us.